Hey folks, Sean here with Psych Talk. And if you noticed, I look a little bit more disheveled lately, like my hair isn't done as nicely as it could be. And maybe I got a few burns and cuts and scrapes and all that. It's because I've been working on some projects around the locale lately, you know? So just doing yard work and grunt work. But I'm doing it towards a business, so I'm not mad at myself for it. But because it's been a long day, I'm going to talk about something I find fun. This is my time. Rule number 4 of business. So today, what we're going to talk about is Catholic schoolgirl syndrome. That's right, baby. Let's do this. Now, is it a real thing? Absolutely. It is absolutely a real thing. And I've seen it more times than I can count. In fact, I've been directly privy to it before. And that was a couple different relationships. But the long story short is, what is Catholic schoolgirl syndrome? So, is it a real thing? Yes and no. Okay, I don't think you'll be able to read the Journal of Psychological Medicine and find Catholic schoolgirl syndrome. Maybe you'll find it, maybe you won't. I don't think you will. But it is a real concept. And what it signifies is a level of repression and then being released from that repression. Okay, so Catholic schoolgirls, basically they live in the low form of a nunnery. Okay, nothing but women. And then they get exposed to the real world. Men, relationships. Oh my gosh, oh my God. And they get exposed to things that most of us are exposed to in junior high to high school. And some of us are exposed to even earlier than that, which hopefully that's not the case. And some folks, some folks are like my significant other, my current of 3 years, who waited until she was about 23 before she even thought about trying to date, which I'm kind of happy with, because she doesn't have all the traumas that other people have from previous relationships. Myself included. I've been burned more times than I can count. Not like physically. You get what I'm saying. You get what I'm saying. So basically, Catholic schoolgirls, they're locked up in this little box of life. And then they get exposed to the wide world. And they tend to take advantage of it. One perfect example is Jessica Simpson. She married one of the men from NSYNC. And yeah, they bragged about her her excitement at being free after having been pretty much chased. I'm trying to say the kindest words to say what I'm saying, and I think most of you get it. Okay, she was a product of Catholic schoolgirl syndrome, and a lot of people are. But it doesn't have to do with interpersonal relations, okay? It doesn't have to do with relations per se, the way that we understand Catholic schoolgirl syndrome, okay? So, anybody can be repressed from something. For example, if somebody has never been exposed to video games, and then all of a sudden they get a chance to play a video game, they might go crazy with it. I've seen it twice, personally, and this was in the teenage years. So both people grew up poor, they didn't have access to any video games, and then all of a sudden, their parents did better, and they got to know people like me who always had video games. And they're just like, oh my gosh, can we play video games again? And it got to the point where, like, myself and a few others like, well, you want to go play basketball or something? No, let's play. And that's kind of what it is. So think of it as somebody who's never been drunk before and then gets drunk for the first time. Okay, when you get drunk for the first time, it is a unique experience. I remember mine. I really do. In fact, I remember the second time I got drunk too. Both of which I was 18 years old, believe it or not. And I remember the second time laying on my back in my best friend's house, because he just had a party with his family. And just saying, Hey, Pep, is the room supposed to spin like this? Like, and he was just laughing his butt off, like, yeah, it's okay. It'll be okay. Get some sleep. And that's kind of what happens is after that point, I drank. And I could have been considered an alcoholic up until I was 21 years old. When I was 21, I stopped drinking, for the most part. But up until then, I mean, I was that guy that I worked at a bar just because they wouldn't, give me, check my ID. Plus, I looked a little bit older. Goatees help with that. And I used to drink like a fish. We're talking, my favorite drink was Rumpelmints and cream. So you do half and half on the rocks, which means ice, and then Rumpelmints, which is 100 proof. Like it's 50% alcohol. And it's also quite tasty. You mix it with some, anyway, that is my favorite drink. So I'd usually down 2 of those, at least 2 peach martinis. And don't judge, okay? Peach martinis with Sky vodka and peach schnapps are, I love it. And then I'd probably chase it with a couple shots. And that was an average night for me. And then I'd go home and I'd just chase it with a few other things when I got home. I could have very easily been labeled as an alcoholic because I loved the feeling. It was something new to me. It's something I'd never experienced before. I lived a very sheltered life. And you'll find that with a lot of people is when they live sheltered lives, now they've got access to alcohol. Now they have access to cannabis. And both produce very euphoric feelings depending on what you use. Not always, but depending on what you use. And I'm actually classifying both. I believe it very much depends on blood type and ancestry as to which type affects you the most. The Catholic schoolgirl syndrome is basically being repressed from something. Another great example is I have a friend that my friend did not get to drive until they were 18 years old. They saw all their friends driving, getting licenses and everything for 2 years. In fact, longer than 2 years because they hung out with half of their friends were older than they were by between 2 and 3 years. And so this friend of mine, who I'm not going to name because I'm Facebook friends with this person still, but they started driving. And man, since I've known that person, that first 2 years between 18 and 20, they were driving everywhere. They were filling their tank literally every 2 to 3 days. Like empty to full every 2 to 3 days. They just loved driving. And they got a chance at freedom. They got a chance at, okay, I don't have to use the bus. I can go there whenever I want. In fact, they even developed that habit of, okay, I'll be there in like 15 minutes, and they're still in the shower. Okay, I've seen them do that. So it was, when people are held back from something. So let's get another one out there. Let's go on the political ramp because, I mean, politics in this country are just freaking crazy, right? So why not tick a few people off? This is my day. This is rule number 4 of business. So I'm going to have some fun with it. Rule number 4 of business. All right, so let's tick a few people off. With politics, there are some people who are really used to something, and they're very resistant to change, okay? And some of you will get exactly why I'm talking like this and this. Some of you will get that. Some of you won't. It's okay. But some people are very resistant to change. In fact, in business, it's called change management and change resistance. So when you change anything that people fall into routine with or find comfortable mentally, then they're kind of resistant to it. And then you got this side over here that's like, oh my gosh, I got some freedoms. I want more freedom, more freedom, more freedom. And when they get a little taste of something good in their political life or in their personal life relative to politics, like laws being passed, reduction in I guess, harm to them. I've been associated with the black community for about 22 years now. and I'm still a member of the Kojic Church. So, I mean, I've run into more than my share of people that when certain laws got passed and when certain people got accused and certain things stopped happening to them, they got excited, like crazy excited. And you should have seen my friends the first year that Obama was elected. I mean, they were on cloud nine. Cloud nine. They loved it. They still do. I mean, I'm kind of with them. I happen to be a proponent for Obama, but at the same time, I saw what he did, and I respect a lot of it. Mostly, I respect his poise. No president I've ever seen in history has been attacked as much as that man was. And he just kept cool, calm, collected. I respect that. These people got a taste of freedom. There was a young lady that was dating someone. Not really a young lady. She was approximately 32 at the time, and she was dating a 24-year-old. Okay? So, kind of like my current relationship, it's not robbing the cradle, but it's definitely visiting the playground. So she was dating a person I'll call cougar bait because younger folks aren't going to get that and older folks are going to enjoy it. So she was dating cougar bait, and she had her relationships before that I was aware of, they were with very dominant people, okay? She had been oppressed. She had been, I won't say controlled, but when you have a forceful personality versus one that doesn't want to be forceful, it opens up a new dynamic for that person. So they are repressed emotionally to some extent, okay? They don't have the say that they used to. It's where misogyny comes from. One person is dominant, one person is not dominant at all. In fact, that person may not have any control over the relationship or their own life, for that matter, with the older misogyny. But it still exists in certain areas. And why do I say this? You ever seen a misogynistic or person suffering from misogyny get liberated? That's a story. But basically, she entered into a relationship outside of her norm. And the person she was dating was very docile, was completely conflict averse. They didn't want to fight, they didn't want to argue or anything like that. And I watched as this person let her get away with something that she never would have gotten away with in another relationship, ever. And that's based on the people she dated. And so she gets a taste of this power in the relationship. So she wants more. And then this person's like, okay, she'll get over it. But then she wanted more. She kept taking more and more and more to the point where this individual couldn't even put their feet on the couch because it was her couch. Not joking. This person was a fellow video gamer, and they couldn't even play video games on the TV because this person was convinced that if he played video games, it would break the TV because it's such a new system. Yeah, I mean, just ridiculous arguments that I heard. But she had a taste of power, and she wanted more of it, okay? That is endemic to Catholic schoolgirl syndrome. I'll give you another example. There was a gentleman named John that I don't like. He doesn't like me. I dated his cousin. And he really, really did not like me. Because at this point, I was dating outside of my ethnicity, and he did not like that. He definitely did not like that. He did not like the Caucasian race, if you will, but it's not. It's the Caucasian ethnicity. There's no such thing as race with humanity. Let's be real. If you want to talk race, that would be Homo sapien, Neanderthal, Cro-Magnon. Okay, those are races under the same, and I'm not going to go all into details and all that good stuff. Long story short, I like to fight in an arena or in a ring. I don't like to fight in public. That's just not my thing. But I love to fight in, say, a martial arts ring. I love it. And if I walk out with a broken bone, I earned it. Yes. And I've walked out with many. So basically, he sees me And I'm just like, hey, let's everybody be friends. And he wants to punk me. Now, I was stronger than him at the time. This was back in high school. And he saw that I wasn't fighting back when he insulted me. In front of other people, too. Like, I didn't care. But he saw that as, oh, he's a wuss. He didn't use the word wuss. He used something else. A few other things, in fact. Yeah. He got creative at one point. And he just happened to be around at certain times. Okay? And he had a taste of power that he'd never had before with me. Meaning, okay, he's this short little dude. I mean, he goes up to about here on me, like up to my jaw. He's not the strongest dude in the world. I was stronger than he was. I was faster. I was a passive guy back then. Very, very passive. I didn't want to fight with him. Which exemplifies why I like peaceful people. Like, they kind of rock with me. And he had a taste of power. Now, he had been repressed all his life. He's a short dude. He isn't the most built. He isn't the most skilled in the fight. He doesn't have the quickest wit. He's not the most. And in this one instance, with this one person, myself, he was the most. He didn't have somebody belittling him, somebody that could overpower him, or he didn't have somebody that was overpowering him, I'll say. So he had been repressed, and now he had a taste of power, a sense of power. And that's actually what a friend named Chris told me too, is like, yeah, he just got a taste of power, and that's why he's, acting all crazy. But he was suffering from this guy named John. I'm not going to say anything more about his identity, even though I think it's funny to tick him off, kind of. I kind of really do. But he had his first taste of actual power over another person, whereas his whole life he'd been belittled and pushed down. And he had to fight his way to middle ground. Think of it like fighting your way 20 years at this one job to get to middle management. So he was repressed, and then he had liberation, which is the same thing with that one young lady, or not so young lady, that I described to you. She had liberation. They both had power over somebody else. Not power in their own lives. They had power over somebody else. That also carries into Catholic schoolgirl syndrome. And the difference between that and a Catholic schoolgirl, coming out into the world, like Jessica Simpson, is this one right here is based on trauma. This one right here is based on solely repression. So not having access to something that other people have. My person who loves to drive, my friend, that person, they didn't have access to drive, and they got to see other people driving. Some people see others in a relationship, but they haven't had access to it, okay? That is a non-trauma-based Catholic schoolgirl syndrome. And then this one over here, they've been repressed. Both those examples were repressed, and they got a sense of power over somebody else, meaning they could effectively enact Schadenfreude, which, look at one of my other videos about Schadenfreude, the ego and Schadenfreude. In fact, boom, over at, boom, Rideshare Commando. Dang, did I just nail it? I'm going to stop playing around, but again, rule number 4 of business is take some time for yourself. I've been working my tail off, and I'm going to have some fun with this video. All right, so, it's all right. This one is based off of trauma. This one right here is based off of inaccessibility. Both fall under Catholic schoolgirl syndrome, which is a repression, and then you get a form of liberation. But this one right here is Schadenfreude. So basically, Schadenfreude is where you want to feel better than a person, better than the subject. You want to feel better than them. Or you want them to see them fail so that you feel better by proxy. Even though, like the ego, it's an on and off switch, okay? It sees it as, aha, slapstick humor, like just lowbrow stuff, Schadenfreude. Which, by the way, Schadenfreude is very lowbrow. People still do it, but then again, this is America. We've been diminishing our education system for God knows how long. Pretty much the beginning of No Child Left Behind under Clinton was the beginning of no child getting ahead. Point blank and simple. Take it from a private school kid that went to public school later on and was relearning, brand new, the same math in 8th grade that I was doing in 4th grade. Ta-da! Anyway, this one's trauma-based, and this one over here, this one is accessibility-based. Now, what's the difference? Trauma-based is going to hang on to any access that they can, because they don't want to fall back into that repression. This one over here, there's no fear. Once they have access, there's no real fear of falling back. It's just switching gears, switching to another opportunity. It's a very unique concept to think about. And I mean, I've experienced it myself personally. Alcoholism and whatnot, that was a thing. And don't get me wrong, I don't regret a minute of it. I don't. I truly don't. I had fun. And that's what a lot of folks won't tell you. Kelsey, I very much admire him. Because when he was being interviewed and he was talking about after his sister passed away very violently, he was wrought. He was feeling bad. And so he tried recreational substances, we'll call them. Think of it as a white powder, but he called it fun. Like he said, yeah, it was bad and so, but it was fun. I get that. Okay, I used alcohol to excess. I stopped the day that I had alcohol poisoning and didn't go to the hospital, but I felt it for 2 weeks. And up until that point, it was fun. Same thing with Catholic schoolgirl syndrome on this side, no access, now you got access, boom, it's fun. But in the trauma-based Catholic schoolgirl syndrome, it's not so fun. It's more, I don't want to go back. I'm not going back. No. That's where their mentality is. Okay, I've got this. This is mine. And they hold on to it for dear life. It's all repression. So, and the way that you can tell these two apart is this person's having fun, this person's having fun until they're not. So you try to call it out, or if you try to point it out in any way, shape, or form, whether you are the victim or whether you are telling them, okay, maybe not do this, you will get a reaction from this group. Because when it comes to trauma, we have a natural fight or flight reflex that's built into us. It's part of our ego, but it's also something more. And so these people will have a fight or flight reflex, whereas this group over here will not have the fight or flight reflex. They will more have, oh, you're annoying, get out of here. Or they'll listen and say, you know what, you might be right. It all depends. There's going to be a little bit of resistance because any change resistance is there. You've got something new. You got something great. You got something that's fun. And you're going to be resistant to giving that up. But this side over here, it's not really fun for them, it's power. And this side over here, it's just fun. So this has been the breakdown of how to identify the types of Catholic schoolgirl syndrome. And is it real? Yes, it is. Boom. I had fun making this. In fact, I don't even think I'm going to edit or cut it for time. This was fun. Anyway, great way to close out a hard working day, and I've got some wonderful weather to go walking in. Meantime, wear a mask. Please wear a mask. Okay, it's still COVID-19. We are going to have a second wave. That's going to happen. Okay, so when you go out, just put on some plastic gloves. Why? Because if you decide to sanitize your hands before getting back into your car or anything else, it's easier to sanitize gloves than it is the pores on your hand. And once you get home after shopping, like sure, you want to wipe down your stuff. Excuse me. You want to wipe down your stuff, but then, well, I got something smeared on me. But then you just peel the gloves off. You wash your hands because you should. I mean, let's just be honest here. But you peel your gloves off, you wipe your stuff down, and boom, you're good. You take your mask off, okay? keep your mask in your car. Because if going to a store, you're going to use your car, right? So keep your mask in your car. That way, when you get out of your car, you put your mask on. And when you get back in your car, you take your mask off. Why do you wear a mask? It's not to protect you, it's to protect people from you. You could be a carrier and not even know it. Because why? You're this thing called asymptomatic. Asymptomatic means, okay, you're not showing any symptoms. You don't seem sick. You're not gonna get sick. But you can get somebody else sick. So wear your friggin' mask. Show a little bit of intelligence on this one, okay? And the gloves thing, just wear them once you go out. Again, put them in your car, okay? And then put them on when you go out into the store, and then take them off when you get back in your car. That way you're not using those tainted gloves to touch your steering wheel, and then, you know, oh my gosh, this is itching. Okay, you get me? Be smart out there, be safe, and like and subscribe. And if you're watching on CCTV, okay, boom, Rideshare Commando. Check me out on YouTube. I've got other videos, I've got other topics. One's on business, one's on psychology. And I've got a few extra fun ones just because, you know, America. But boom, Rideshare Commando. Make sure to like and subscribe. Be safe, y'all.